Our 19th NGO speaker and final speaker is Mr. Ahmed Zmnnako from the Halabja Chemical Victims Society in Iraq. Mr. Zmnnako, the podium is yours.
In the name of God, Chairperson, Director General, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me, as the youngest survivor of the chemical bombardment of Halabja, to join you at this event and take part in it. 28 years ago, Halabja was 5 days away from Nowruz, the Kurdish New Year. The mountains of snow had melted, and they were covered with green grass and recently flourished flowers. People were preparing themselves to light the fire of Nowruz and celebrate the New Year. But this year it was all different. In the morning of March 16, 1988, Saddam's warplanes start bombing. Parents took their children to the basement, thinking that it was one of the regular bombardment the Ba'ath regime was doing to them. And children were wondering what was going on. The bombardment kept going, and the sound got louder, and windows start shattering. After some minutes, families started smelling apple, not knowing it was a sense of death. They came out and found death all over the city. On that day, the oppressor took life, mostly women and children, shattered families, tore down the houses, but it couldn't kill their hope for the better future and their cause for the freedom. In the most brutal chemical attack against civilians in the history of mankind, 5,000 innocent people died and 10,000 were wounded. 67% of the casualties were women and children. Today, after almost 3 decades, after having all of those tragic memories of Halabja, fear of chemical weapons are again coming back to the Kurdish houses. And this time, by the most brutal terrorist group, Daesh, against our Peshmerga, the Kurdish military forces. Peshmergas hold the front line over 1,000 kilometers and have been subjected to the usage of chemicals more than 18 times. They are fighting the terror on behalf of the whole free world. There are still bunkers of toxic chemicals in Iraq that Daesh got very close to them and attempted to access those chemicals. They were not able to do it this time, but the danger is still there. There are all of those dangers while Peshmergas do not have any kind of equipment to protect themselves against usage of chemical weapons. They don't even have the regular masks. We as the Halabja Chemical Victims Society ask the international community to support Peshmerga against the usage of chemical weapons in order to avoid the repetition of another catastrophe in the history of mankind and in the Kurdish people's memory. Also, those bunkers of toxic chemicals in Iraq need to be destroyed before any unauthorized and untrusted hands can access those dangerous chemicals. Now I am sure somewhere in the world, this moment, a tear is falling on the face of a child, alone and helpless. Let's this time not imagine, but believe. Believe all the people living life in peace, and the world will live as one. Let's believe on building a new future, a future with no hatred, war and violence, a future without chemical weapons. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Zmnnako. And